Hi everyone, it's Sean here from Invest National, just giving you a bit of a mid-month update. Obviously, we normally do these once every month, but in the situation that we're in at the moment, we thought it'd be wise to give you all a bit of an update on what's happening with the coronavirus, what that means financially. We won't get into anything about the travel restrictions or anything like that. That's all information you can get from the news. I will try to keep this update purely economic. We're here in our home office, working from home. That's what we've tried to do to be socially responsible, send as many people home as possible, me being one of them. And we'll get to some of the points that I've been asked over the past few days. Obviously, with the markets plunging and the panic everywhere, thought we'd try and give some insight into what's going on. So this video will be a bit longer than our normal ones. It'll be in 3 sections. We'll do firstly the state of play, what things are looking like. I've been asked a number of questions about what's happening, so I'll give my opinion on the frequently asked questions. Then finishing off, I'll just give you some silver linings out of all this, and that'll be the takeaway of the video. So let's start off with where the economy was before this crisis hit. Firstly, we have a population where 50% of people say they cannot make it 1 month without income. So that was an issue. Secondly, 25% of people have less than $100 in savings. Also, we had really low spending over Christmas and the economy was kind of in a go slow mode globally. So there were these issues in the background already, which the governments were working frantically to try and resolve. Then, obviously, the virus hit and things went into free fall. This is an unprecedented crisis. And the reason it is unprecedented is twofold. Obviously, we're having a pandemic, but we've never had a pandemic where at the same time as the crisis is occurring, we've all had access to instant social communication as well, which has brought out a new level of panic, which may or may not be appropriate. Stock markets across the world have all collapsed. In Australia, we've particularly lost between 20 and 30% depending on the day. Now, let's look at that in real terms. What does that mean for everyday Australians? Well, if you had $100,000 in your superannuation, there's a good chance it's sitting at about 80 at the moment. If you had some certain stocks, there will also be bigger ramifications depending on that stock. Like if you look at Flight Centre, for example, if you had $100,000 worth of Flight Centre stocks about a month ago, you're probably looking at about $20,000 worth of Flight Centre stock today, and they've actually entered a trading halt at the moment, so you wouldn't even be able to access that money. The other reason we've had a massive free fall is there has been a massive sell-off. And in this day and age, again, unprecedented, many people have their money invested via trading platforms such as eToro, eTrade, CommSec. Now that means that the public has also sold off many of their stocks frantically without any sort of barriers to the market as there would have been some years ago. So that's happened very quickly. There will be no budget from the government issued in May. That has been postponed to October. Obviously, they have no idea what the fallout of all this is. So we won't actually know what the financial targets are going to be until October. Right now, the government is in cope mode and it's just trying to handle everything. As you may have seen in the media, the Reserve Bank has cut its interest rates to 0.25%. And unfortunately, a lot of the banks are not passing on that cut at this point. So this is going to be a big talking point over the next few days. I don't imagine that the governments will let that slide. It's also been a bit cheeky of the banks to try and pass it off that they are giving that cut to people through lowering fixed rates, but a majority of people are not on fixed rate terms. Majority of people are on variable rate, and that cut has not gone through yet. The banks have come to the rescue in some respect by deferring payments up to 6 months. Now, this is something that I would advise that our clients get in contact with us about. If you have any questions regarding any of these things, give us a call. But at this stage, it would seem that small businesses are the ones that are going to benefit the most because that is the area that the government is most keen on keeping going. We want to keep people employed. And at the moment, it'll be the Reserve Bank that makes all the big decisions with regards to economic stimulus. We're going to move into quantitative easing, which I have explained in previous videos. Let's just say that it is monetary policy that is outside the box. They're going to be pulling all sorts of strings to try and keep this economy moving through this time. So now I'd like to give you the answers to a few questions that I've been asked repeatedly over the past 7 days. I don't normally do this, which is to give my opinion in a forum like this. This is not to be considered financial advice. This does not take into account your personal situation or circumstances. But I have been asked these questions a lot during the week. I thought it'd be great to just answer them once and for all and let everyone have a look. It's just my opinion, okay? So let's just remember that as we go through it. So the first question I've been asked a lot is, do I think that we are headed for a recession? And the answer is yes, I do. We really are sort of looking at some severe job losses, some severe drops in the market. And I do think we are heading for a recession. The other thing to take into consideration here is, though, I don't think that it will be as long-lived as previous recessions. So I think the recovery will actually be a lot sharper as well, because in this situation, the machine that has caused the recession is not actually broken. We actually are affected by a virus, whereas in past recessions, like the global financial crisis, the economy actually burst. In this case, the economy is functioning okay. It's a virus that has stopped us from actually logistically moving about and trading with each other. So the bones of the operation are still fine. And I believe that once we have gotten through this, we will come out of it stronger and faster. Another question I've been asked a lot is, should we sell everything and move it into cash? Should I buy gold? Or if I've got money, where should I invest it? Now, the thing is, this is the $1 million question, literally. No one really knows what to do. In times of volatility, you are taking a risk no matter what you do with your money. If you move your money to cash, we may see a 3 or 4% spike in the market tomorrow. If you move your money to gold, you may see a similar thing. Gold has performed very well over the last 3 months, but the volatility has been quite massive in the past week. Same with oil. Stocks are all over the place. The key word here is volatility. There is so much volatility in the market that you really don't know what is going to happen. Our advice is generally to take a long-term approach, because that way you ride the ups and downs. But if you want to take a further, closer, more in-depth look at your stock position or your cash position, please give us a call and we can talk further about that. The question I've also been asked is, will the government be able to save us from this financial crisis? Will they be able to protect us and shield us? My honest opinion is no, I don't think they will. There has been a $25 billion stimulus package rolled out already, which is small businesses and payments to pensioners. There will be, in my opinion, another $30 billion rolled out over the next week or two. The problem that we have here is, even if everyone was given $1,000 right now, they will not be in a position to spend it. This is where we're actually running into problems. There is no logistics. The economy is frozen in the sense that trade can't occur. So that will be the big issue. Until this virus is handled, once again, I believe that once it is handled, we will come out of this very quickly, but it's not going to happen until we start seeing some positive news roll through. Now, another question I'm getting asked a lot about is what will happen to the price of real estate over the coming months and years. The first thing we need to do is analyze the factors that affect the price of real estate. Now, first off, unemployment rate is going to be the big one. We expect here that the unemployment rate will rise to about 12 to 15%. That's going to be massive. And that should affect the housing market. But let's not forget also that there is no value to be had in the stock market. There is also a supply and demand issue with the housing market that we need to consider. So let me take a look at some information here on my laptop, and I'll just read some of this info to you. Some of the factors that are going to affect the housing market. Now, there is a decreasing housing supply. So the recent HIA data is outlining that we are now entering the lowest levels of approvals and construction that Australia has seen for 10 years. Considering how long it takes to build new estates or large apartment complexes, we expect we are going to see a mass undersupply of property in our capital cities in the next 2 to 3 years. The other key information here is population growth. On the ABS numbers, Australia's population is growing by around 370,000 people per annum, meaning we need to build around 175,000 to 185,000 new dwellings each year to accommodate all the new households. Based on the current approvals, we are going to fall short of this number by about 30 to 40,000 per annum on average over the next 3 years. So looking at those factors, looking at that information, supply and demand, and the unemployment rate, I would expect that the housing market will come off the boil for the next 3 to 4 months. I don't think it'll fall dramatically, and I think the recovery will be sharp as well. So another question I've been asked is who will be the big winners out of this and who will be the losers? Well, if we start off with the winners, firstly, I believe that the government, by getting involved with social media, is going to solidify its position. I think that the government is actually going to be learning new ways and new means to actually talk and communicate with the public, which will go to their advantage. Whether they'll manipulate that is a whole nother discussion. Facebook, Instagram, the socials are actually doing very, very well out of it. One of the things that I have noticed that is a bit concerning is that there is a move for Facebook to start censoring the information that is issued on Facebook, which is a sort of tantamount to censoring the information. This worries me. If we start getting social media being censored, if we start limiting the control of what actually is said out there, that is a very dangerous path to walk down. If Facebook is starting to dictate what posts people are allowed to make, that sort of starts to scare me. But that is seemingly making them and Instagram the real winners out of this. Another winner is home delivery of essentials, food, wine, Uber Eats, all the delivery apps. They are going to be doing very, very well. And the health sector. So anything to do with healthcare, looking after yourself, improving your immunity, medication, all those sectors will be flying as well. And as for the losers in all of this, well, it's kind of obvious. The airlines, Qantas has downed most of its fleet. 20,000 people have been sacked. Flight Centre has ceased trading, needs help from the government. Car manufacturing, Tesla has stopped producing cars. Pretty much everything else is really massively affected by this. The other concern, if we look beyond the economic, the environment may actually be a big loser in all of this, because in those good financial times, there was space to create and innovate and start to think in terms of sustainability and environment. My concern is that now it will be a matter of just getting back to business, getting back to production. And I think the environment could be a loser in this case. And all those inroads that we had made maybe push back a few years, which is alarming. Another thing that may be an issue is that freedom of speech may be another big loser in this. As I said earlier, that with socials and the governments collaborating very closely over an issue like this, control of what is put out there may be lost. So that could be a big loser also. Now, another thing that I've been asked this week is what other things do I think could be done to sort of help things out during this crisis? Well, financially speaking, I think there's an opportunity to release superannuation payments to people for the next 6 months. So what I mean by that is if people had access to their superannuation payments on top of their wage for 6 months, I think that would be a great way to stimulate the economy without actually affecting the taxpayers and taking from the purse of the government. So if you could imagine, if you're on $100,000 a year, you would be getting an extra $700 and something a month straight into your pay packet for 6 months, rather than it going into your super fund. Or at least you could have that choice. So that's one innovation I think that we could actually utilize. Now, something else that I know is not economic related, but something that I think would be some good advice is to practice not only social distancing, but social media distancing. I think everyone should really stop posting anything to do with the coronavirus. I think that all news should be left to the media outlets. And I know that that could be considered to be a worse situation, but I think that everyone's news feeds are being cluttered up with, whether it be good news or bad news, it results in people feeling more and more threatened by this virus. And I think everyone should actually stop. I know no one will, but I think everyone should really just stop speaking about it, start speaking about creative things they're doing, start talking about innovation, and change the narrative on this. Because even if you post a story on social media about, for example, how well things are going in China, you will find that people will comment and get into an argument about whether the Chinese government is telling the truth or etc., etc. Or if you post that someone is working on a cure, someone will post on there that that's not really a cure and da 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 da. And so what you'll find is that it's just enraging everyone and getting everyone wound up. And this all leads to more panic. And the panic, in my opinion, has been far more distressing than the pandemic itself. I also feel that it has been very irresponsible of the bigger retailers, the likes of Costco, Aldi, Coles, Woolworths, to be putting supplies directly on shelves and letting people just swarm through and create mass hysteria. I think that we need some sort of control mechanism. If you look to Italy for leadership on this, they have had no panic buying. People are allowed in the shops one at a time. They're only limited with what they can buy and they leave. There has been no dramas over there whatsoever. So I think we really need to suppress that. And we really need to stop promoting that it has been a problem, because on the whole, people have been fantastic through this whole thing. And unfortunately, the media beat up is also adding to that panic. So my advice would be to just stay away from that stuff and maybe checking the social media once in the morning and once at night. And if you're going to post something, just make it unrelated to the coronavirus. Now, to wrap this relatively long video up, I think we just talk about some of the positives that have come out of this. Again, some not so economic, but we have definitely seen a shift in mindset to what is important. We have seen those beautiful scenes in Italy of people singing on the balconies. We have seen a lot of camaraderie around people doing the right thing and trying to be socially responsible. We have also seen a lot of gratitude for healthcare workers. I personally believe that after this, they will maybe even have a similar Anzac Day parade type of thing for healthcare workers. I think they will be celebrated as much as veterans of war were in the past, because they have really put their bodies on the line for this. And I think that has been an amazing thing to come out of all this crisis. Also, this would have to be the first time I've ever really seen a government put people's lives before profit and before money, and make the economy take a back seat while we focus on saving people's lives, which I think is actually something that will hopefully continue to happen after this crisis, and we continue to value everyone's lives more than we do the dollar. So that has been a real positive to come out of this. I'd love to hear from anyone that has anything to add to this conversation. We want to try and get this economy rolling. We want to get through this crisis together. We want all our clients to succeed. We want everyone in the country and the world to succeed. And so any comments you have, please let us know. Give us a call at any time if you want to discuss anything. If you feel any uncertainty about any of your financial products, we are here for you at Invest National. I will speak to you soon with hopefully better news at the next month in a minute. Thank you.